Hello, welcome back to Educator.com's AP Music Theory course. Today's lesson is on seventh chords. So the objectives for this lesson are to learn the diatonic seventh chords in major and minor keys, and then we're going to look at how to build and spell seventh chords on any pitch based on their structure, intervallic structure. So let's take a look at seventh chords in major keys. So just like we did with triads, I'm just going to put us in C major here, and we'll just spell out all the seventh chords and look at their qualities. So to get a seventh chord, of course, we start with this basic triad, and then we simply add a third above the top note. So I'll do that for every degree in C. Here's number 4, F, A, C, E, and then G, B, D, F. And the last one on the 7th degree, B, D, F, A. And then we can fill in the Roman numerals like we did before. And now we need to add a symbol for the 7th, of course, so these are all 7s. And the final one, of course, is a diminished chord, and now with the 7th, so it gets 2 symbols. And so let's look at the qualities of these 7th chords. So in major keys, we find that we have major 7th chords on 1st degree, 4th degree, and that's it. So just like the ones with major chords when we looked at the triads. And then we have minor 7th chords on 2, 3, and 6. And then on the 5th, on the dominant chord, of course, we have a dominant 7th. And I'll add 7s to all these. And finally, we have a diminished 7th on the 7th degree. Okay, let's do the same thing in minor. So just choose A minor as our key. And as we remember from the lesson on triads, there's a different arrangement of major and minor chords in minor. So let's see. So of course, we have a minor 7th here on 1, and 2 is where the fully diminished 7th comes in. And then here we have a major 7th, and then a minor 7th here. And then of course 5, we want to alter it with the leading tone, so this gives us the same dominant 7th. And then 6 turns out to be a major 7th, and then 7 is again with the leading tone is a fully diminished 7th. And so the difference between this diminished chord here and this here is that this one is actually half diminished, and I should have done that for the 7 in major as well, so we can go back and correct that. Let's see. So again, we have in minor 7ths are on the 1st degree and the 4th degree. And then major 7ths are on 3rd degree, and then we have dominant 7th is on 5. And then we have these two diminished chords, and we'll talk about the different qualities of them coming up next. So we have this one on 2, and then the one on 7. Okay, so let's look at major 7th chords first and see what intervals they consist of. So we can look at the one on C, just to be simple at first. So of course, on the bottom we have a major triad, and we know that that is a major 3rd followed by a minor 3rd. And then to get the major 7th on top, we simply add a major 3rd above, and that turns out to be the interval of a major 7th from the bottom note to the top, from the C to the B. So let's practice spelling one of these on a different note. What if we start with an E instead? So the first thing we know we need is a major triad, so we can just use our triad knowledge to do that. So thinking about E major, we know that there's a sharp involved here, so we have E, G sharp, B. And just to check, we can make sure that this is a major 3rd and this is a minor 3rd. You can either do that by counting the half steps on the piano keyboard, or hearing it, listening to it for the sound. And now we need a major 3rd above the B. So of course it's going to be some kind of D, and if we count half steps or think about being an E major, in which case this would be a 1-7, then we know that that D has to be a D sharp. So here's a major 7th chord on E. Okay, let's look at minor 7th chords, and of course compared to the major 7th chord, it's not such a surprise that it's a minor triad on the bottom, followed by a minor 7th from the root to the 7th. So that turns out to be, of course, a minor 3rd, a major 3rd, and then another minor 3rd. So let's practice writing a minor 7th chord in root position. So what if we start on F this time? So of course we know that the 7th chord is going to look something like this. And now we need to make sure that the bottom is a minor 3rd. So that means we need an A flat. And again, if you weren't sure what to make, or how to make a minor 3rd up from F, you could just think about F minor. And then we can check this and make sure that it's a major 3rd, which it is. And now we need a minor 3rd here, which means this needs to be an E flat. So here's a minor 7th on F, which means if we're in F minor, this would be the notation for it. And of course we can confirm this by putting up the key signature to F minor and making sure all the accidentals are accounted for. Okay, let's look at dominant 7th chords. So the first one we saw today was in C major, which is 5-7. So of course these are the major triad on the bottom, which we've already seen, and then followed by now a minor 3rd on top, which results in a minor 7th from the root to the 7th. So let's do one of these, maybe starting on, what about an F sharp? So we know that the 7th chord is going to look like this, and then we need a major triad on the bottom, which means we're in F sharp major, or not an F sharp major, but we need an F sharp major triad. Oops. So here is a major 3rd, here's a minor 3rd, and now we need to make sure that C sharp to E is a minor 3rd, which it is. So this is, of course, another dominant seventh, and if we want to figure out what key it's in, we need to think that this is the fifth chord in that key, which means we are in B major or minor. Okay, diminished seventh chords, we talked about earlier, there's two different kinds, so let's take the first one that we saw in C major first. So that was beginning on the 7th degree on B. So this is made up of a diminished triad on the bottom, which is of course a minor third stacked on top of a minor third, and then the upper interval is a major third, or you can think about it as being a minor seventh from the root. So this is actually called a half diminished seventh chord, and this is how it's written. Should have written it like that in the first frame. So this is half diminished. And so now let's look at the other triad that we saw, or the seventh chord that we saw, which was the one in A minor on the 7th degree, which was G sharp, B, D, F. And so we see that there's the same diminished triad on the bottom, so nothing different there. But the difference comes in the top note, which is a minor third above the 5th of the chord. Or if we look at the 7th, we find that it's a half step smaller than a minor 7th, which of course means that it's a diminished 7th. And so this was again notated this way. And this is called a fully diminished 7th. So of course the difference between the half diminished and the fully diminished is the size of the 7th, whereas up here it's a minor 7th, and down here the diminished 7th is fully diminished. So let's do a little bit more practice with half diminished 7th chords. So let's find one on, let's say, C. So we know we need a diminished triad on the bottom, which means 2 minor thirds. So from C to E is a major third, so we need to make this E and E flat. So here's a minor third. And then from E flat to G is a major third, so we need to change this note as well to a G flat. So there's another minor third. And now we need a major third on top to make a half diminished chord, so we can think about G flat major, and we know that G flat major has a B flat in the key signature, so that will give us a major third. And just to check, we can make sure that from C to B flat is a minor 7th, and can do that by thinking about C minor and the key signature. So that definitely works because C minor has a B flat in it as well. So here is a half diminished 7th chord on C. And let's do some examples of the 4 7th chords. So let's think about a question on the test. It might just give you a note like a G and ask for a major 7th above. So let's see. We know that we need a major triad on the bottom, so that means we need to make sure that this is a major third, which it is, and this is a minor third, which it is. And now we need a major third above the D, which means that we need to add an F sharp. And just to confirm, we can check from G to F sharp if that's a major 7th or not. Which it is, because many ways we can think about it. Easiest is probably to just think about being in G major, so which means we need the key signature to be applied to the notes. Okay, for a second example, let's think about being asked for a Roman numeral. So let's say we're in, let's choose a different key. What about, what about D minor? And we are asked to write 4, 7. So the process for this would be to figure out, of course, the 4th degree in D minor, which is G. And then, of course, we can just build the 7th chord above it, and then make sure that we are accounting for the key signature, which is 1 flat, which means we need to add a B flat, flat to the B of the chord. And we can confirm this by verifying that this is a minor triad and this is a minor 7th. Okay, for our third example problem, let's say we are asked to build a dominant 7th chord now. And let's say we are given the 3rd note to start on. So we're not given the root this time, we're given the 3rd. So the first thing we can do immediately is, of course, fill out the right structure of the chord. So it's going to be these stacked thirds. And now, remember, we can't change this A, so we need to make sure that F to A is a major third, or else we need to change the F. But of course, it's a major third, so no change. And then we need to finish out this F major triad. So this is fine here. And the last thing we need to do is make sure that we have a minor third on top. And of course, C to E is a major third, so I'm going to need to flat the E. So here's our dominant 7th. And if we wanted to figure out what key this was in, since dominant 7th is always on the 5, we can think about this F as being the 5th degree in what scale, and it's of course B flat major. And for the last example, let's say we're asked to find a fully diminished 7th chord starting on an E. So the first way we could do this is to know what intervals we need to build up in thirds. And of course we know the fully diminished 7th chord is stacked minor thirds. So we need E to some kind of minor third G. So of course G is a minor third, and then we need to make sure that this is a minor third. So we need to add a flat. And then from B flat to D, we know is a major third because of B flat major, for instance. So we need to make this D a D flat, and this gives us all the minor thirds stacked on top of each other. The other way we could think about this fully diminished chord, let's say we're going to do the same problem in a different way. So we are given an E, and we need to write a fully diminished 7th. So let's think about it as if it were in a key. So just rewrite the treble clef here. So what key would give us a fully diminished 7th on E? So we know that in a minor key that the raised 7th degree is going to be the fully diminished 7th. So it means it's going to be E natural. So what that means is if E natural is the 7th degree, the leading tone, F is going to be the tonic. So, and we're in a minor key, so we're in F minor. So all we have to do now is know the key signature for F minor and write it here. And then of course we can stack the thirds and then just take the accidentals that we need from the key signature. So B flat and D flat. The only tricky thing about this is to remember that the E has to also be naturalized and is not going to be in the key signature either, since it's altered tone. So this turns out to be an F minor, and it's fully diminished 7th. Okay, thanks a lot for visiting educator.com's AP Music Theory course.